The Exoprimal Open Beta is live currently on all platforms. I've played about 10 games of this. Tutorial is really short, it's about 15 minutes, just kind of gets you an idea of how each of the exosuits work, the different classes. There's an attack class, a tank class, and a support class. There are 10 suits total. I would like to say the most positive thing I can come out of this beta is that almost every suit is different, and it is pretty engaging for you to go into a match and then see that your team is struggling, see that your units are ineffective, and then switch out of the suits to find yourself better suited for that situation. I feel like you're going to figure out how much you like Exoprimal within the first 2 or 3 battles. Mainly because you're going to have more than enough time to switch out exosuits, get acclimated to fighting some of the dinosaurs, and probably realize really quickly that the best part of this game is when you get to the end of the stage, because that's when it's a pure PvP PvE slugfest, and it can be pretty exciting. So let's talk about some things I liked about the game and some things I thought really needed improvement, because I don't know if this beta is going to provide enough information to the player to make them go, yeah, I would love to drop $60 on this game. It is luckily, however, coming out on Game Pass. So if you weren't impressed by the open beta, but you are interested in what the full game is going to offer, please just download it on Game Pass and give it a try then. The first thing I really liked about this game is the diversity in combat in regard to being able to switch out exosuits at any time. So if you feel like your team is struggling, there's an imbalance there, you can make the decision to switch to a different exosuit. And I recommend you do so multiple times throughout a match to ensure that your team is progressing faster than the other team. The exosuits themselves are actually really cool, and each have their own unique abilities, and plus you can add a certain item, let's say like a laser gun, something that'll provide extra shields, a platform that will push enemies away, that type of stuff, to kind of help spice up the diversity, because after a while, that's when the game kind of gets stale. Because in the beta, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of diversity when it came to managing your kit outside of changing up your attachment. And I really feel like the PvE in this game is lackluster. It really is. I think that they have certain, larger dinosaurs that you're going to fight, and that's fine. But when you're doing these PvP, PvE battles, you'll know almost immediately that the best parts of this game is when I am absolutely engaging other players. When you're not, and you're just kind of trying to race to the end, the build-up when you first play is fine because everyone's getting acclimated to the game. But after a while, and it does not take long, by the way, because you go through at least 4 phases of straight PvE, and it's the same dinosaurs being dropped on you multiple times. So I felt like that was getting stale really quickly. I wanted to see more from the game. I wanted like an entire phase where it's just outright PvP at first. Maybe we're fighting over a location, maybe we're fighting over a device, but that wasn't there. And that was really frustrating to me because I really liked how fluid everything was in terms of combat. And I like the fact that you're able to switch out your exosuits. But if every match was going to be us just fighting through waves and waves of dinosaurs and then eventually fighting each other, that buildup, that is just not going to be a good formula to ensure that players stay engaged. Which is a shame, because once you start to get to that end stage, and most of your fights are going to end up being you trying to take an object or a device and just do a transport to the end. And even then, it was pretty frustrating because you're still doing PvE until you get to a certain point. You have to be around 80% before you see another player. Sometimes the AI around like 50 to 60%, or if someone is too far ahead, they'll drop a tethered beast or a dinosaur and give you the ability to wreak havoc and slow them down. And that's, I think, a really cool concept, but that should not be the thing that continuously has to happen in matches. It just doesn't feel like there's enough variety there right now, which sucks because when you ultimately get to that PvP section, when you are engaging the other team and it's that full 5v5, and every team is kind of set up in a certain way where you have, you know, a support class, 1 or 2 tanks, 1 or 2 assault, and you're just going at it. That shit is exciting. It is really fun seeing, you know, how certain exo suits can dominate other ones and how, you know, the synergy can work between other teammates. It's so much fun to see that happen because it can be a fucking spectacle, especially with how some of the special abilities work, because you always have an ultimate. You're always building up to that special ability. But you have to like drag yourself to get to that part, to get to that satisfying fight, because you are literally just fighting waves and waves of the same dinosaurs. And I was shocked that Capcom would put out a beta that lacks real gameplay diversity and at least real variety, because, you know, usually with some of these betas, especially when the game comes out fairly soon, the expectation is I'm going to get a really nice glimpse of what Exoprimal can do. And at this point, it just doesn't feel like, unless Capcom makes a swerve and says, hey, here's another mode out for you guys to try out, it doesn't feel like there's going to be enough to entice players to come back to this game. And this can be a pretty big downer, because using the Zephyr assault class or even the Murasame class, which is one of the tank exosuits, there's a lot of fun right there. There's a whole lot of it to be had when you're literally engaging in PvP, getting up close and personal. And I feel like with Exoprimal, there's this kind of arcade, you know, style. It's an arcade style game. It reminds me a lot of Lost Planet for some reason. I'm getting that vibe so much, where, you know, you're fighting waves and waves of monsters. I remember the multiplayer was like waves of monsters and then PvP. But with Exoprimal, it feels like, I don't know if any mode that they add, any mode that they change is going to be enough. And it feels like at $60, that's a steep price to pay for a game as a service, which is what this is. It is a service title, and I don't know how fatigued everyone is when it comes to those games, because Capcom clearly wants to have this be a hit. But this beta, I'm telling you, it doesn't take long. You are either going to love this game, or after 2 or 3 matches, you're going to be done with it. And I recommend that for all those who do happen to play it, share how you feel in the comments below. Let me know, because after, you know, 4 matches, I was like, yep, I know everything that Exoprimal has to offer, at least for this 5v5 mode. Maybe, who knows, Capcom says, hey, here's another mode being thrown in to kind of help, you know, assuage people's concerns. But I think because it's a Game Pass title, they really don't care. But I had fun at certain points, but it felt so few and far between. When you become a tethered beast, that is so much fun. It is fun just causing chaos and wrecking everyone. You're a bit too overpowered. Enemies in this game, the bosses especially, when you get into those fights, they're pretty spongy. When you're fighting other players, not so much. I think that's a really good balance right there. One of the more frustrating things about this beta was I ran into a number of matches where players were just dropping out. And so if you happen to play this game and you have, I think the max is like 2. I had 2 teammates drop and we just got steamrolled. You hit that ending screen and you were just watching the entire team, the entire enemy team, just get all the MVPs because you were getting worked. The AI, the bots in this game don't do anything. They are absolutely useless. They can clear out some ads, but most of the time, they're just getting worked. And that can be really frustrating, especially considering how you really need a locked-in team with a support class, a tank, and an assault to ensure that you're going to be successful. People have to get comfortable in switching, and with character class games, I don't know how comfortable you're going to be, because that's a neat feature. Being able to switch out classes on the fly in the middle of the game really quickly is a pretty neat feature. But I don't know, with what you played so far in Exoprimal, if any of this is enticing to somebody, because when you first saw the trailer for this, I know that a lot of people wanted Dino Crisis, me too. I wasn't exactly blown away by what I was seeing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is just going to be like a horde mode type game with some PvP thrown in. And it is legitimately a horde type game with some PvP thrown in. And that is about it. So your mileage is going to vary. I think if you enjoyed the Exoprimal Beta, good. But I do feel that this is probably going to be a game that's not going to be well received. And Capcom has kind of fallen into the trap where you're very close to the release date and you're having an open testing period, and you're probably not going to get the reaction that you were hoping for. I don't know if they're going to keep this game at $60. I just don't see it as a full price title. I really don't. I think more than likely Capcom made a deal with Microsoft to get this on Game Pass to help bolster the user base. But unlike some other games as a service that completely died upon release, I think Exoprimal will have legs for a little bit, and it will really depend on Capcom to push out content quickly, because they are going to have a pretty convincing roadmap to get players on board to commit to this game. I want to see what the campaign looks like. I want to see what else this game has to offer. Thank God I have Game Pass too, because otherwise I'm not playing this game for that long. And I thought that there are a number of other positive things. I thought visually this is a really cool looking game. I thought the amount of things going on screen were just insane. But that spectacle wears off after you realize how shallow the gameplay can get. When you realize that there's not much in terms of like combo diversity, the abilities are kind of getting stale. You know, what real additions could Capcom have in store for people to really say, hey man, what you played in the beta is just a taste. Now, you know, it's on us because the taste wasn't exactly that great. I feel like if you really enjoyed this game, I'm glad for you. I really am. I found it to be pretty repetitive. I found the formula to be really stale. And I'm kind of disappointed that they went this route instead of bringing back Dino Crisis. I'm going to keep repeating that until they bring it back, Capcom, because why not? You know, Dino Crisis is just sitting there. It just wants to come back. You bring back dinosaurs. No one's thinking of fucking Exoprimal. No one's thinking of a sci-fi adventure, because the last sci-fi dinosaur game you had, Dino Crisis 3, was a nightmare. But anyway, overall, I would say mixed feelings. I'm a little bit erring on the negative side, unfortunately. I just wish that there was more variety in the gameplay. I just wish it just wasn't so predictable. You know, going from phase to phase, fighting waves and waves of dinosaurs until we ultimately get to the best part of the game, which is straight up PvP. If they have that and they can expand upon that part for the PvP, if they made the PvP more prevalent in the final game, I think you're going to find a lot of people far more interested in this title. And, you know, I really hope that they kind of increase the intelligence, or the at least aggressiveness of the AI bots, because I feel like you're going to see a lot of lobbies in which people just completely drop out because they do not want to switch exosuits. They don't want to change from assault to support or tanked to assault or whatever. And I think that's going to frustrate a lot of people. So those are my thoughts and impressions on the Exoprimal open beta. I don't want to come off as like an entirely negative person, but I feel like these games, they just get so stale so quickly that it feels uninspired. And you don't want any game, especially coming out of a developer or publisher you love, and I love Capcom. But I feel like this is one of those games that is not going to be like left out to die, because Capcom does usually a really good job of supporting their titles. But this doesn't feel like it's going to have the reception that I think they want it to have, especially as a new IP. You're coming off of, you know, listen, by the time Exoprimal comes out, the Resident Evil 4 remake is out, and that game is getting tens. That game is repeating itself as probably the best game of the year. And then you're going to release this, and this this might leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below how you felt about the Exoprimal Open Beta. And I will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening, everyone.